All right, let's dive into something well, it's really important for all of us: body image. It's all about how we see ourselves, right? But sometimes that reflection in the mirror can get a little distorted. Understanding these challenges is absolutely key, especially for teens, because it's the very first step toward having a healthier relationship with our bodies and knowing how to be there for our friends. So, let's just pause for a second. When you look in the mirror, what do you really see? It's a super personal question, I know, but it's at the heart of everything we're going to talk about today. And hey, if you've ever felt a little shaky about that reflection, let me tell you, you are so not alone. Millions of teens and adults all over the world are dealing with body image disorders. So we're going to take a closer look at four of the big ones to really understand what's going on. That's anorexia, bulimia, bigorexia, and binge eating disorder. So first up, what are these disorders, really? How do they actually change the reflection that someone sees when they look in the mirror? Okay, first, let's talk about anorexia nervosa. This is a very serious and sometimes life-threatening condition. It's all driven by this intense, all-consuming fear of gaining weight. And it's a fear so powerful, it just doesn't go away, even when a person is already dangerously underweight. So how does this fear actually show up in someone's life? Well, you might see things like extreme dieting, maybe skipping meals altogether. There's often an obsession with every single calorie or the number on the scale. And there's this persistent feeling of being fat, even when that person is clearly thin. This usually goes hand in hand with excessive exercise and just flat out denying the body's natural signs of hunger. And this is absolutely crucial to get. This is not about vanity. It's not about wanting to look a certain way for attention. Anorexia is a serious mental health disorder that messes with a person's body, their brain, and their emotions. Getting better really requires professional medical and psychological help. Next up, we have bulimia nervosa. Now, this disorder is all about a really painful cycle. It starts with binge eating, which is eating a whole lot of food in a really short amount of time, and then it's followed by behaviors to try and undo it or, get rid of the food. So, what does that getting rid of the food part actually look like? Well, these behaviors, which are often called purging, can take a few different forms. It might be self-induced vomiting, misusing things like laxatives or diet pills, or even turning to another round of really excessive exercise. One of the things that makes bulimia so tricky is that people who are struggling with it are often at what you'd consider a normal weight. This makes the whole thing a lot easier to hide, but don't be fooled. It's still incredibly dangerous and can cause really severe health problems, like major heart and digestive issues. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't get as much airtime but is just as serious: bigorexia. You might also hear it called muscle dysmorphia. This is an obsession where a person is constantly convinced that their body is too small or just not muscular enough, no matter how strong they actually are. And while we see it a lot in teen boys, it can totally affect anyone. And this right here is the heart of the struggle. On the outside, in reality, you might see a strong, muscular person, but their internal perception, what they feel, is that they're small, weak, or just not good enough. It's this huge disconnect between what's real and what's felt. And you'll see this obsession show up in a person's everyday life. Their entire world might start to revolve around the gym, to the point where they feel deep anxiety if they have to miss a workout. They might start avoiding places like the pool where their body is more visible and develop a habit of constantly checking their reflection. And finally, we have binge eating disorder, or BED. And you know what? This is actually the most common eating disorder in the US. It's all about having these recurring episodes of eating very large amounts of food, usually really quickly, and feeling totally out of control while it's happening. So, what does one of those episodes actually feel like? Well, it's defined by that feeling of losing control. It often leads people to eat in secret because they feel embarrassed. And then, afterward, there's usually this huge, overwhelming wave of shame and guilt. Now, here's the key difference to remember. Unlike bulimia, BED doesn't involve any of those purging behaviors. The cycle just ends with that awful emotional distress. But here's the really helpful part. While it can cause health problems, recovery is absolutely achievable with the right kind of support. Okay, so we've talked about the what, but it's so important to get this next part. These disorders are about so much more than just food. They create this ripple effect that touches every single part of a person's life. I mean, the impact is just huge. It can spiral into anxiety and depression, put a massive strain on friendships,
and totally shatter someone's self-confidence. Their grades can start to slip, and of course, there are serious long-term consequences for their physical health. It really does affect the whole shebang.
And I really need you to hear this loud and clear. There is no look for an eating disorder. These conditions do not care who you are. Anyone, any size, any gender, any background can struggle with this.
Okay, so knowing all this is one thing, but what do you do? That's the most critical question, right? So let's walk through a simple action plan for how to get help, whether it's for you or maybe for a friend you're worried about.
Look, the steps are pretty straightforward, and you can take them one at a time. It all starts with just talking to an adult you trust. Could be a parent, a teacher, a coach, a school counselor. From there, the goal is to connect with a professional, a doctor or a therapist who really knows their stuff. And if you're the one trying to help a friend, the most important thing you can do is just be there and listen, without any judgment. And through it all, please be patient. Recovery is a journey, not a race. It takes time.
All right, as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with one last really powerful thought.
Seriously, I want you to take this to heart. Body image disorders are medical conditions. They are not a choice someone makes, and they are never, ever a sign of weakness. And getting help early on, it makes a massive difference.
So just let this idea really sink in for a moment. Reaching out for help isn't giving up. It's the exact opposite. It is an act of incredible strength and real courage.
If you take away just one single thing from our chat today, let it be this. If you or someone you care about is struggling, please talk to a trusted adult. It is the very first and honestly the most powerful step you can take on the path to getting better.